Huzzah, dude. Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I know I didn't post a video on Saturday. I was planning on it, but some things popped up and I just wasn't able to. So instead I'm going to be using that video for tomorrow, Tuesday. I have some stuff going on this coming week here, so I want to get ahead. Like, that is my goal today. It is currently Sunday, and I have just been sitting and staring at my computer because I genuinely need to get ahead. I can't just say that. Anyways, let's jump into today's case. On May 23rd, 2018, Jessica Robinault, 24 years old at the time, decided to take advantage of the beautiful day in Tampa, Florida by going for a walk with her 21-month-old daughter, Lilia, in her stroller. Now, it was like one of those really nice days where it's like the sky is blue, the sun is out, the wind is low. Well, that might just be for North Dakota. We have crazy wind here. But it was just like a really, really nice day. And they were visiting Florida, so she wanted to take advantage of it and take her daughter out, which is super cute. At the same time, Cameron Herrin, 18 years old at the time, and his friend John Alexander Barino were racing each other north on Bayshore Boulevard, which is a main drag that Cameron and John lived less than a mile away from. Now, since this incident that happened, people have been trying to lower the speed limit on this boulevard because I guess there is a lot of like drag racing that goes on, because it must just be a really good stretch of like road to race people. And a lot of people in the community have said that there have been multiple incidents on this boulevard, so they are still fighting to try to make it safer for pedestrians. John was driving a gold Nissan and Cameron was driving a brand new Ford Mustang. It was a 2018, and he had his older brother Tristan Christopher Herrin, 20 years old, in the passenger seat with him. He got the Mustang as a graduation present. He had graduated from Tampa Catholic High School just 2 days before they were drag racing, which, you know, look, I get it. You get a new car, it's a Mustang, she's a muscle car. You think that you gotta drive it fast, you know? Like, look, I'm not perfect. I've definitely sped in a new car, or if I'm driving like a sibling's car. I don't know what it is, but you just feel like, why not, you know? One time I took my friend Katie's grandpa's Camaro out. She was driving and it was a really nice sunny day, exactly like the one in the story, and we were driving on a stretch of road that there don't tend to be cops on, and she was driving and we were going like insanely fast, but it's like we're driving not a Camaro, it was a Corvette. We were driving a Corvette, a really cool like speedy little car. It was convertible, and we were just like, yo, let's go super fast, you know, it's a really scenic highway, like just let's do it. So I do understand the urge. I'm not saying it's right, but I get that feeling of wanting to drive fast and kind of stupid. I don't know why we feel that way as people. I don't know what it is, but I have been there. So again, I'm not saying this is right, but you know. The boys were driving well over 100 miles per hour, and the zone that they were in, that boulevard, it's a 45, which actually now it's been reduced to a 35. That's one of the efforts to make this boulevard more safe. And witnesses at the scene heard Cameron's Mustang roar like he was really revving up the engine before seeing what happened next. As Jessica was crossing at an intersection, so she was crossing legally, she had the right of way, Cameron hit her and her daughter with her car. Witnesses saw Jessica get thrown into the air because she was hit at a super, super high speed. She was pronounced dead soon after at Tampa General Hospital, and her daughter passed away the next day due to her injuries, unfortunately.
Officials haven't given us specifics, but we know 2-year-old Lilia Robinault was rushed to the hospital after the crash with serious injuries. People who live around here tell us the stroller she was in went flying after the toddler and her mother were hit. You can see behind me there is a growing memorial out here tonight for that young mother killed in this senseless tragedy. Tampa police say 2 cars speeding and street racing down Bayshore Boulevard slammed into a young mother pushing her toddler across the street in a stroller. 18-year-old Cameron Herrin was behind the wheel of a Mustang with his 20-year-old brother Tristan sitting in the passenger seat when witnesses say they saw the sports car driving recklessly, weaving and switching lanes with another car driven by 17-year-old John Barino.
I saw a lot of police cars a lot of yellow tape.
Just before noon, the Mustang slammed into Jessica Reisinger. The 24-year-old was crossing the roadway with her 2-year-old daughter, Lilia Robinold. Neighbor Pat Mussolino didn't see the horrific crash, but was there when Reisinger's husband got to the scene.
He was rushing down Ninth Street, and when he got to the corner, he stopped. And then all of a sudden, I heard this yell and 5 cops running to hold him back.
The toddler was rushed to the hospital with serious injuries. Reisinger didn't survive. Investigators tell us the family was in town from Ohio, and even though Reisinger didn't enter the busy street in a crosswalk, she did have the right of way.
Speeding has been a problem for a very long time on Bayshore.
No one was at the suspect's homes when we knocked this evening, but neighbors say the young men involved clearly made a major mistake.
Good kids, they've grown up, they've played with my daughter, never been in trouble, never had any issues with them whatsoever. Just a bad day for everybody concerned.
Now, those 2 drivers, Cameron Herrin and John Barano, are charged with reckless driving, street racing, and vehicular homicide. The passenger, Tristan Herrin, is also charged tonight. He faces 1 count of racing, which is a misdemeanor. Police and people who live around here say speeding and dangerous driving is a constant problem along Bayshore Boulevard.
Jessica's uncle John, 62 years old, released a statement saying, "We're praying for those young boys and their families. We hope something good will come of this foolish accident. That's what Jessie would have wanted." Jessica married her husband David while studying at Kent State. They had been married for only 2 years at the time of her murder, at the time that she was killed. I don't know that murder is the correct word because it was an accident, but she was very passionate about eating healthy and working out. Like, that was one of her main passions in life. I read was that she wanted to educate people on eating healthy, like growing your own food, harvesting, that kind of stuff. Personally, I'm not into like garden stuff, but I don't think there's anything wrong with people taking that up like as a hobby. Like, good for her. She kind of made that her mission in life. There's nothing wrong with it because it doesn't harm people. So but that was just something that I read multiple times that her family reiterated. I believe that she did go to school for like a nutritionist or something along those lines, and that is kind of what started her passion into like healthy, clean eating. The family had been visiting Florida so that David could get his single-engine airplane pilot certification in Pompano Beach. The family was waiting out some bad weather so that they could go home. The weather delayed David's certification anyways, so he wasn't going to be able to take it on this trip, so they were just waiting to go home, and they were planning on getting back home in like a week. Cameron, John, and Tristan were taken into custody at the scene, but before the cops were there, before anything like that, Cameron called his mom and he said, "Mom, I've killed someone." "No, Cameron," she responded, "you're mistaken." But, he knew. Cheryl Herrin, his mom, then drove to the site and saw him on his hands and knees in the median. Cameron and John each faced 2 counts of vehicular homicide and street racing. Both posted the $10,000 bail, and they were freed from the county jail. Tristan was facing a misdemeanor charge of racing, and he posted the $500 bail, which I think he got a much lower bail because he wasn't the one driving. He was just in the car with them. In December of 2020, just a week before the trial was to start, Cameron, now 21 years old, and John, 20, decided to go their separate ways, like legally. Like, they decided to get different representation. They didn't have the same lawyer, like, for each of them. They didn't go up there, like, together. John's attorney was able to get a plea agreement. He pled guilty to 2 vehicular homicide charges and a misdemeanor racing charge. He got 6 years in a Florida prison and then 15 years of probation. Cameron, on the other hand, even though he pled guilty as well to vehicular homicide charges, he was facing up to 30 years in prison. Sorry, I know I'm being annoying with my hands, but I just like talk with... Anyways, on April 8th, 2021, 3 years after the accident, Cameron was sentenced to 24 years in prison, just 6 years short of the maximum sentence he could get.
Specifically, the court did take into account that the defendant's 18, certainly responsible for his actions, and he's being held accountable for his actions. But the age of 18, the court finds, is a mitigating factor, and shouldn't put this at a maximum. Also, the complete lack of prior criminal history is something that the court considered as preventing this from being at the top. So having said all that, the court is going really toward the middle between the minimum under the guidelines and the maximum punishment permitted under Florida state law. So on count one, vehicular homicide, the court's going to adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 9 years in the Florida State Prison. On count two, same charge, court will adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 15 years Florida State Prison, and that'll run consecutive to count one for a total of 24 years Florida State Prison. Count three is a misdemeanor, unlawful racing on a highway. So the court will adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to time served. Give credit for time served, I believe, 2 days. Court will impose mandatory court costs. Mr. Herrin, you have given up the right to appeal the determination of your guilt or innocence. You do have 30 days to appeal the sentence of the court.
I want you to never forget what you have, I want you to never forget that you have caused thousands of people to cry, David told Cameron. Now, at the time of the accident, David was trying to call Jessica and get a hold of her and like figure out where she was, what she was doing, meet up with her, and he couldn't get a hold of her. So then he went walking along the boulevard and he came across the crash site and he saw the stroller, and I don't believe that he saw Jessica or his daughter. I think that they had already been taken away, thank God, but he did walk upon the crash site and was like, oh, I know that stroller. Now David says that he cannot walk into a room of people without crying. Like, it's really hard for him just because of the emotional trauma that he's gone through. That was reported in, I believe, 2021 when he said that. I really genuinely hope that he is able to get counseling, some sort of therapy, because to lose your wife and 21-month-old daughter in one fell swoop is insane. I can't imagine going through something like that. Now, Cameron did try to appeal his sentencing, but it was denied. I have been hearing a little bit more about this case now, so I'm kind of wondering if he's going to try to appeal it once again. I don't believe that he can, but a lot of people feel like the judge is just trying to make an example out of him. Why did he get more than what John got? I've also been seeing like some really weird TikToks where they're almost like emotional edits, like being sad about his sentencing. Woman and a 21-month-old child were killed because of this kid being reckless. I know he was only 18 when it happened, and he was young, and he had his whole life ahead of him, but, he was also 18. Dude knew better. You know what I mean? So, I will say Cameron is not a bad-looking, young man, but that shouldn't buffer what he did. It's still inexcusable what he and his friends did. I really think that John should have gotten more. I don't know why Cameron because Cameron actually hit her. John didn't. He was next to him. But, I don't know. I just think it's so weird that people, make edits of him and stuff. And it's okay, but you guys, remember, he killed 2 people. And the prosecution also got the black box from his car that, records a bunch of stuff, speed, a bunch of, just information about the car, and he was going over 100 miles per hour, but the defense claimed that they got it illegally. However, it was still ultimately submitted into evidence, because that is important evidence to know. What if he was going the speed limit? Would he have gotten a lesser charge then if he would have been going 45, because at the time it was 45, or would they still have made an example out of him for not watching for pedestrians? I don't know. Personally, I think that the sentencing is okay. I don't have any weird feelings about it. I do think that he needed to pay for the crime that he committed. But I'm very curious to see what you guys think about it. Do you think that he was charged like a little excessively? Do you think he should have gotten more years of like probation instead of prison or jail time? Honestly, had any of you heard of this case? Because a lot of the updates are from like 2022. I don't know why this has been coming across my TikTok lately, but I just thought it was very interesting. And really what like caught me right away was this one video of him getting sentenced and seeing his reaction. And like the music was just like, I don't know, it was like sympathetic towards him. And I was like, oh my God, like what does this kid do? Was he wrongfully convicted of something? And then here it's like, no, he killed 2 people and he got sentenced to 24 years. And I was like, oh, okay, that's really weird. Just because he's not an ugly young man, people are feeling sorry for him? Like, pardon? I don't know, that could just be me, but I am very curious to see what you guys feel about this. Leave it in the comments down below. If you feel like I forgot anything to mention in this case, definitely comment down below, because I'm sure more people would be interested in learning more about this. And I do have all my case sources linked down below, so if you guys like want to read more about this, definitely go and do so. But that is it for me today. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure that you get outside, you know, look at the sky, touch some grass, but most importantly, be safe out there. Bye guys.